Veterans, if you're in your 50s, you might think it's too late to build $1 million retirement. But today, I'm going to show you how it's absolutely possible using money that you're probably already receiving. No complicated investments, no gambling with stocks, just a safe, proven system that's designed for veterans who want to create real retirement wealth, even if they started late. So let's get right to the problem. So many veterans receive pensions and VA disability compensation. Some receive both. But unless you opted into the survivor benefit plan, and I'll link a video above explaining why I don't recommend SBP, your benefits end the moment you pass away. Your spouse doesn't continue receiving them, your kids don't see a dime, and that puts families at real risk. Now, on top of that, VA compensation only grows with cost of living adjustments. So these increases average around 2.5% a year based on consumer price indexes. Now that may be enough to keep up with inflation, but it won't build real wealth. Now, even though many veterans receive up to $4,400 a month in VA compensation, most still work full-time and most qualify for Social Security as early as age 62. So today I want to walk you through how a 52-year-old veteran receiving 100% VA rating took a portion of his compensation, combined it with a small amount of savings, and safely repositioned it into a structure that protects his benefits, builds tax-free wealth, and nearly triples the lifetime value of his VA compensation with no market risks and no penalties. Now, before we get into the numbers, let's acknowledge something important. Yes, it is easier to build $1 million when you start in your 20s or 30s, but that does not mean that it can't be done in your 50s or even 60s. In fact, many middle-aged veterans are in a stronger position now than ever before because they have more predictable income, their salaries are generally higher, their kids are grown, major expenses are paid down, and they finally have discretionary income. Now, discretionary income is the key because once you redirect a portion of it into the right structure, you can accelerate your retirement dramatically, even if you're starting later in life. All right, so let's break down this veteran's case. So he's 52. He's retired from the military. He receives roughly $4,100 a month in VA compensation with his spouse included. Now, he still works full-time. He has about $5,000 in savings that really isn't doing anything, and he hasn't really built a strong retirement nest egg. Now, he plans to work until age 69 and fully retire at age 70. But here's what's keeping him up at night. At this age, he can't afford a major market loss. So if he loses 30 or 40% like in 2008 or 22, he won't have time to recover, and that could derail everything. So he decided to take $1,500 out of his $4,100 a month of VA compensation, so about 35%, and reposition it into our RETIREMAX Elite strategy using a properly structured, max-funded indexed universal life policy. Now listen carefully. Proper structure is everything. Not every IUL works, and not every carrier works, and not every design works. You need a policy that's engineered specifically for maximum cash accumulation while maintaining tax-free status. And that's what we build inside RETIREMAX Elite. Now, for this veteran, we designed a plan with a starting death benefit of $300,000. Now, that coverage begins on day one and it increases every year until age 70. Now, this gives his family protection while also allowing him to overfund the policy safely. So he starts with his $5,000 in savings and repositions it. And then he contributes $1,500 a month from his VA compensation. Now, his minimum premium is far below what he's contributing, which means that he can reduce his contributions anytime. He can skip months if necessary, or he can increase funding when life allows. And he maintains liquid access every year as his cash value grows. So by year 2, he already has more cash value available annually than he's putting in. And by year 4 or 5, the cost of the insurance drops to around 1% of his total cash value, and it keeps getting cheaper as he gets older. So most veterans have never heard of insurance getting cheaper with age, but when a policy uses a blended design like we do, that's exactly how it works. Now let's fast forward to age 69. So at this point, he has over $540,000 in accumulated cash value. And his death benefit has risen to approximately $840,000. And he has full liquidity with no market risk. Now, at age 70, he begins taking tax-free retirement income from the policy. Now, based on the structure we built, he can withdraw at least $51,000 a year tax-free for life. The income is steady, it's predictable, and it's unaffected by the stock market, and it comes on top of his VA compensation, his regained $18,000 a year contribution, his pension, Social Security, and any other income streams he has. Now, before I continue, take a second to hit like and subscribe. And if you're already thinking, Dan, I want to see how this works with my numbers, go ahead and tap that link on your screen to book a no-cost appointment. All right, let's get back to the numbers. So let's project this out through age 85. Now, if he starts withdrawing at age 70 and continues through age 85, that's 16 full years of income. Now, at $51,000 a year, that totals $816,000 in tax-free income. And because the policy continues earning index credits during those years, the actual value ends up being higher than $816,000. And after all of that income, he still leaves over $400,000 to his family when he passes away. So that means the total value, retirement plus legacy, exceeds $1.6 million. Now compare that to doing nothing. So if he simply spent the $1,500 a month over those years, he would spend $612,000 and leave nothing behind. But with RETIREMAX Elite, he draws roughly $1.2 million in value plus a $400,000 legacy. That's almost 3 times the lifetime value of his VA benefits. And he achieved it with no market risk, no penalties, and no required contribution schedule, and full access to his cash value the entire time. Now, this works for veterans in their 50s because in most cases they're using income that they're already receiving. They're avoiding major market crashes. They're building tax-free wealth instead of taxable wealth. And they're creating day one protection for their families. And they're locking in a retirement income stream that they'll never outlive. So let's just zoom out for a second. So veterans often underestimate what they can still build. Now, you spent your 20s and 30s deploying, PCSing, raising young families, and dealing with stress that, well, frankly, most civilians won't even understand. But retirement planning wasn't always top of mind, right? You now have stability. You got predictable income and the ability to make strategic moves, not risky ones. And even if you're 52, 55, 58, or 60, you can absolutely build a tax-free retirement that reaches $1 million or more in lifetime value. So if you want to see exactly how this strategy works with your numbers, use that link on the screen and book your no-cost, no-obligation session with me. I'll walk you through your VA compensation, your pension, your time horizon, and your goals, and I'll build a custom RETIREMAX Elite blueprint for you. Look, you earn these benefits. Now, let's help you multiply them. This is Dan with VictoryX Financial saying stay sharp, stay ready, and I'll see you in the next video.